Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be starting a brand new series, and it's about one of my favourite topics, bushcraft. Whether you're a seasoned outdoorsman or just curious about the art of surviving and thriving in the wilderness, this series is for you, so let's get into it. So actually, what is bushcraft? Well, the term bushcraft has its roots in the outdoor skills of the indigenous cultures around the world. For centuries, people have lived in harmony with nature, using minimal resources and adapting to their environments. Bushcraft is all about rekindling those ancient arts and skills of those people. It's about thriving in nature and not just surviving, but truly living off the land and using the resources around you. Well, you might be wondering how bushcraft is different from survivalism. Well, let me break it down for you. Survivalism is often about more emergency preparedness, like thinking about what you would do if something was to go wrong. Now, I will be covering things like that in this series, and all the bushcraft skills that you'll learn here are all fully transferable across survivalism. But survivalism is generally a mentality based around the short-term survival, like how to survive like hurricanes or some kind of like power outage. But bushcraft, on the other hand, is about long-term self-reliance. It's about using the environment around you sustainably, learning to live off the land rather than battling against it. When you're practicing bushcraft, you're not just surviving, you're learning to create a lifestyle that's in sync with nature. Think of bushcraft as a skill set that lets you turn basically the wilderness into your home. It's a blend of practical skills and traditional knowledge that lets you survive and thrive outdoors. And in this series, we're going to be exploring all of them skill sets step by step. Now, you might be thinking, well, why should I learn bushcraft? Well, basically, there's so much more to it than just being able to build a shelter and start a fire. Learning bushcraft has a ton of benefits that go far beyond just survival. First off, there's the confidence it gives you in the outdoor environments. Imagine going into the wild knowing you can make shelter, find water, and even catch your own food. That kind of self-sufficiency is empowering, and it is a confidence that spills over into the everyday life as well. Bushcraft also helps you build a deeper connection with nature. In our fast-paced, tech-driven lives, the world is easy to lose touch with the natural rhythms of life. But when you start learning these skills, when you slow down and really observe the environment around you, you can begin to appreciate small details, the sound of the wind in the trees, the scent of fresh rain, the way the sun moves across the sky. This is bushcraft. And let's not forget the physical and mental well-beings of bushcraft. It's actually proven that human beings' psychological state improves when they're around nature. It's also even proven to reduce stress, improve mood, and even boost your immune system. Plus, not to mention going around, dragging your ass around the woods, going hiking, collecting firewood, building shelters and stuff like that just makes you use your body in ways that you feel in the morning. Let's carry on, shall we? So wherever you're looking for a new hobby or ways to unplug, or even skills that one day could save your life, bushcraft is something that you should try. So if you're convinced and you want to give it a go, then let's get down to some core principles of bushcraft. These are the building blocks that will guide you as you start your journey into the wild. Talking about the essential skills: fire, shelter, water, food, and how to use your tools. And be that how to use them safely as well, because one thing you don't want to do is fuck up with a knife when you're in the middle of nowhere. First up, we have shelter. This is all about keeping yourself protected from the elements. Rain, wind, snow, you name it. A good shelter can be the difference between a comfortable night's sleep under the stars and a dangerous one. Indigenous people around the world have used everything from simple lean-to shelters to more complex structures made with natural materials such as mud and straw. Next, we have got this, man's oldest television. This isn't just about warmth though, it's a big part of it. Fire is also used for cooking food, purifying water, and even signaling for help if you need it. Mastering the art of firecraft, whether it's just from a lighter, a flint and steel, or primitive methods like a bow drill, this is a key skill in bushcraft. Also, there's something to be said after a long ass day hiking about and then you actually sit down next to your fire with a brew and some nice food. This is a serious morale booster now, especially if you're in a survival situation, or even you just, like I say, had a long day camping. You know, to sit down and, you know, spark one up next to the fire absolutely does bits. It's one of my favourite bits about camping. But fire and cooking food is one of the most important things in bushcraft, but you can actually live for quite a long time without food, but not very long if you're too cold. Its exposure kills you in 3 hours. Water though kills you in 3 days. So the next most important thing is how to collect and purify water. One of the most important things in bushcraft to do with water though is how to find water, purify it. It's not just about stumbling upon a stream. Sometimes you've got to get creative and use techniques like digging a steep hole near a riverbank or using a makeshift solar still. But if you mess up and get ill by drinking contaminated water by agricultural runoff or parasites and stuff like that that can make you seriously ill, these things can dehydrate you faster than just not going without water will. This is why it's so important, with water being one of the key fundamentals for human physiology in general, yeah, that you need to know how to get water on the regular, like just consistently across the board. Next up, we've got how you procure food, from foraging to hunting and trapping. Learning what's edible and what's not can be a game changer, especially when you're deep in the woods. It's a skill set Indigenous people have perfected over generations, and there's a lot that we can learn from them. Now, foraging is an absolutely huge topic. I mean, I've always been in two minds whether just to do just bushcraft or just foraging, and I've actually decided just to combine them together, because foraging is one of the key fundamentals of bushcraft. Because like I say, you're stuck somewhere, yeah, you can make fire, but you can't cook anything, you can't eat anything, you're just going to die anyway. So basically, like, I was a forager, or I am a forager, and I've got a big TikTok channel that's basically all about foraging and outdoor survival, but it's mainly towards foraging. My YouTube channel is primarily based around bushcraft, which as an umbrella has got foraging in it. People just don't get these two things. Like, oh yeah, I'm a bushcraft instructor, I'm a bushcrafter, I've got all of these, ready meal packs and stuff like that that I can just eat. No, you need to know how to forage. It's one of the most important things. And finally, we've got the good stuff, tools. But you don't need a lot of fancy gear to get started in bushcraft. Just a few reliable tools like a sturdy knife, a hatchet and a handsaw can make all the difference. But beyond just having tools, bushcraft teaches you how to use them safely and effectively as well, and even make your own when needed. Now, don't get me wrong, you can't go out and start forging a knife. You've got to basically teach yourself how to knap steel, which would also be another part of bushcraft. If you were genuinely stuck in an outdoor situation and you had no kind of knife or cutting tool, it's one of the most important things. It's going to be very difficult to make this. It's going to be very difficult to catch food. It's going to be very difficult to cut cordage for fishing, trapping, anything that you need. So what's to be expected from this series? Well, basically I'm going to go through all of the key fundamentals and principles of bushcraft, from basically setting up a camp like this, tools, gear, tarps, foraging, plants, medicinal plants, mushrooms, trapping, hunting, even though hunting in the UK is a difficult one, water purification, natural navigation, everything that you need to just survive and thrive in the wild. But one thing is, I can't promise you that I won't go on like mad tangents. Like on my TikTok, I was doing all like bushcraft and outdoor survival, and I just started growing mushrooms. But if you're into all things like survival in the outdoors, bushcraft, emergency preparedness and how to survive, then don't forget, subscribe to the channel, and YouTube thinks that you might like this video up here. It's always on the left. Let's talk about bushcraft.